'Cause what I'm trying to do is enthuse you, so that you and I might together strive to change more people's point of view for those who can't decide.
Hey guys, it's Bobby Hughes again with Heritage Pride Custom Firearms, and I'm back with another video on the Hornady Lock and Load AP press. We're almost ready to start loading some 380 auto rounds. I'm going to show you guys, this will be video 2 on setting up the Hornady case activated powder drop. In a previous video we already got all our dies set up, so we know that in this station right here, which will be station 3, is where we're going to set our powder drop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take these dies out here now that we've got them locked into our bushings. Set those aside, knowing that we're going to put our powder drop right here. Okay. Now the first part that we're going to need for our powder drop is not the actual powder drop, it's the die body. Okay. Now with this one, I already have it locked in here because I've used it for a previous setup, but for the sake of the video I'll go ahead and loosen it back up for you. Alright, so what I've done is I have got my die bushing on here, and then the lock ring, and then we've got our connecting piece to the top of the die body. Alright, so pretty much all we need to do with this is just go ahead and seat it into our press, just like that. Okay? Now you're going to need your powder drop stem. Alright, and the stem is going to drop down inside of the die body here. The stem is unique. This is specially for the smaller pistol rounds, or pretty much any pistol rounds, because they're so short, and we've got to activate that powder drop. So what we want is, you want this little cone here. Let me make sure you guys are in this shot. See how it's shouldered down here? That's actually going to drop down into the press or into the die body like that. This will actually protrude out of the bottom of the die body. But this cone, the case will actually just slide right up in this cone and allow for the powder to drop down through there. So we're going to go ahead and drop that down inside of here, and then we can take our case activated powder drop assembly and set it right on top. Okay, so here's the mechanics of the powder drop. Alright, so what we want to do is, I've got it turned around here just so you guys can see. This isn't the ideal operating, but this linkage here drops right into this locking screw on this attachment on the die body. Alright, so we've got that sitting right there like that. Now, to make sure that our die is set at the right depth, we want to run a case up through it to make sure that this actuates all the way up and all the way back down. We're going to also install our spring here between these two, and that's what brings it, pulls it back down. Okay, so now what we want to do is put a case in, and we will go ahead and run it around to that station. Now what I'm going to do, for the sake of making sure that we're in line, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back around here facing me, lock the lock ring down. And we're going to run our case up in the press, and you can see that that's not near enough to lift this up. So what we're going to do to fix that is we're going to loosen our lock ring up, just run our lock ring up just like that. Alright, and then we're just going to tighten the die down into the bushing until we get it to actuate all the way up. That's what we're looking for, is we're looking for it to actuate all the way up. Alright, so that's as low as we can get it at that station. So now, because this case is so short, it won't activate it all the way up. So what we have to do is adjust the depth of where this is seated with these two screws right here. Alright, so we loosen those two screws up and we allow our powder drop to drop down. Alright, so the powder drop itself just drops down a little bit, and then we'll just tighten our little screws back up. We're not going to torque these down, we're just going to snug them up and make sure that it will actuate all the way like we want it to. Alright, once we double check it, we'll tighten them down. And then put our spring back on. And now, what you can see is that when we run our case up into the bottom of our case activated powder drop, we get full range of motion on our micro adjuster. Alright, and that lets me know that that's going to drop that powder all the way. It's going to dump all the powder. Alright, so there are a few different ways that you can adjust to get the correct depth, but what your end goal is for you to get full range of motion out of that micro adjuster. But we always start with just trying to adjust the die body and the die bushing placement. If you can't get enough depth out of that, then you can loosen up and loosen or adjust the actual height of the powder drop itself. And that's what we did in the second part there. So now that we've got that done, we need to go ahead and lock down our locking ring. So that it attaches to the die bushing. Alright, we've got our spring on, we've got our lock nut over here tightened up nice and tight. Now we should be able to take the die body, just loosen it up and pull the whole powder drop out and go right back in and be ready to roll again. Alright, so the next step from here is to go ahead and adjust our powder drop to get the amount of powder that we need for the charge that we're using. For that, I'll need one case with a primer seated in the bottom of it so that the powder doesn't fall out, and I'll need a scale. Alright, so I'm going to use my Hornady electronic scale, and let me go get the powder and we'll get cracking. Alright guys, so we're going to be shooting for 2.7 grains of, I'm going to use Alliant Powder's Bullseye powder. We're just going to pour it right in our hopper. I've got my scale here, got my catch pan, so I'm going to go ahead and get my scale started up here. I'm going to go ahead and tear that. Let's do it again. Alright, so I'm going to place a case in the press. I'm going to go to the priming station, seat the primer, and then we want to just double check to make sure that the primer seat is working properly, and that's perfect. And then we're going to go to the next station where our expansion die would be, and then up to our powder drop. Alright, now our powder drop right now is probably going to be a lot light. So we're going to pour it in there, see what it gives us for a reading. Actually, that's pretty close. I'm at 3 grains. So I'm going to dump that back in. And then I'm going to go ahead and start my case right here again. Run it up. Let's do another drop. Come back down. And I would say it'll probably be a little bit more than 3 because it takes one cycle to get through there. 3 grains exactly. Alright, so 3 grains is a little bit too much for my blood for this 380. So what we're going to do is go ahead and we're going to adjust our micro adjuster in so that it pushes the space that allows the powder to fall in it. I'm going to turn it 1/4 turn. I'm going to cycle it, pull it out, dump it, and then cycle it again. And then we'll check. Well, made a mess of that one. I dumped those grains on the floor. Alright, so now we'll check it. And we are at 2.9. So it came down to 1/10 of a grain in that quarter turn. Let's try it one more time. Make sure that we got a consistent drop. This does two things. It allows us to know that we're getting a consistent drop, and we're double checking. 2.9 grains again. So we got 1/10 in a quarter turn. So we need to go 2.8, 2.7. So I need to go a half turn. So right there should get us right at 2.7. So I'll run our case up, back down, pull it out and dump it. And then up and down. And we'll check it. And we have 2.6. I'm going to increase it just a hair to try to get 2.7 there. Two 2.8. Now we'll double check it, which we had 2.7, 2.8, jumped to 2.8 there, so I knew it was off just a hair, but maybe by one flake. So we'll try it one more time, shoot for 2.7, and we sure enough have 2.7 grains. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how you set up your Hornady case activated powder drop and adjust it for handgun loads. Now keep in mind we have the micro adjuster in for handgun loads. You can change that out and put a larger one in for large handgun loads, or for, and I'm talking very large, like 44 Magnum and stuff, for those loads, and for rifle loads. But for a pistol, this will be plenty and we'll be good to go. So that is a complete setup for the powder drop. Some frequently asked questions on it is, why are my powder drops not consistent? And the biggest reason for that is because you didn't clean the inside and remove all the cosmoline out of there, and it's getting stuck. You need to use dry lube so that the powder doesn't get built up in there. Another big thing for inconsistency is the little I don't know what it's called, but it's a little metal piece that you drop down through here that actually cuts the powder and allows it to feed evenly no matter how much powder is in the hopper. Alright, so that piece, if that's missing, that can throw off your measurements depending on how full or how low you are on powder. Those are the biggest problems with inconsistent powder drops. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments on it, just leave me a comment. I try to do the best I can of explaining it as I go. But sometimes I forget something, or maybe leave you guys hanging on a certain thing. Well, we're all set up now. We're ready to start loading. So in the next video, I'm going to show you guys the Hornady lock and load AP press loading 380 auto flawlessly. And I'll also give you my recipe for my 380 auto. So until next time guys, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.